I got my yard clean, the garage emptied, got rid of a ton of stuff we didn't need or want anymore, and we've been redecorating. So you might see a few changes around here very soon. In fact, my next video is going to be all about it. I can't wait. Hello, VC. I'm Brother Eric, and welcome to the Plastic Soundwave Cult. So in this one, I'm going to get a little personal. As I mentioned in the last couple of videos, if anybody's watched them, I've been doing a lot of work around the house so far, especially with the isolation. You can't go anywhere. You might as well get something done. And so I cleaned up my yard, garage, blah, 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 blah. I've said it before. But one of the things that happened out of this was my wife was so happy that I did so much that she was like, hey, do you want to update your record shelves and stuff like that? And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Now, one of the reasons why I think she pushed it forward was because occasionally, well, let me put it like this. My wife thinks I have a big collection of records and CDs and tapes. I just recently went over the 200 mark from LPs. I'm at about 450 approximately on CDs. And I just happen to know that I'm at 87 on cassette tapes. So all in all, I'm around almost 800 pieces of music. And my wife thinks that's a big collection. So sometimes my wife will come in and watch a VC video with me. And I'll point out to her, look how much that lady has in records. Look how many records that dude has. And I love the fact that people like to put their records to show how many they got behind them, because it's way more than what I got, and it helps my wife get things in perspective. And she realizes I'm not nearly as bad as you people are. So I get to get more records. So once I got most of that other stuff done, I started working on redecorating. The desk is still the same. I'm probably never going to get rid of this. I built this desk with my grandfather in Holland in 1980. Not just me, but my dad and my brother also helped him with it as well. He did the majority of it, but I actually watched this thing being built. Now, I used to have like crates for my records, and that was starting to be a problem because the records stuck out a little bit. And my cats found that to be a nice little ledge to hop on to go up on top of a cabinet over here. And that was driving me nuts. So I was already looking at getting new shelves. So I thought about buying a 2x4 cubed shelf. But my wife was like, no, if you're going to fill it up, you might as well, get what you can right off the bat. So I got this lovely 3x3 record shelf off of Amazon. Not super expensive. It's doing its job. And unlike the IKEA ones, it does have a back on it. Even though it's flimsy, it still has a back on it. So they had the color that I wanted, and I believe it was well under $70 to get it. So I was just like, okay, you know what? It's a cheapie, but we can give it a go. The reality is I probably don't ever want to move it. It probably could come apart, because that's what I've heard about IKEA. I've known people who have gotten IKEA furniture, and as soon as you go to move it to your next place, it all gets destroyed. So you end up having to buy new IKEA furniture. So I think going with a cheaper brand on Amazon was a decent way to go. Helped me save some money, and now I got plenty of room for all of my records. So I basically, You know what? Let's do this handheld. Okay, so up here we've got box sets, a couple of little things. I might show what that little piece of fabric is sometime later. I got an old VHS tape of all of Sting's videos in the back there. Led Zeppelin CD box set, Rush for their first album box set, A through D, E through J, K through O, P and on. This is compilations and soundtracks. And in this one, these are my daughter's LPs and my daughter's 45s. And I still get to have my little tool shrine. So it looks pretty cool. Well, at least to me. Got everything set up. Got my little hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil monkeys there. And I got their mama. So yeah, overall, I've been pretty happy with this so far. I went with dark mahogany for the veneer. I like black, I'll be honest. So yeah, it works out pretty good. And so of course, I had to get matching CD shelves. Now all my CDs are in the same spot. Before they were kind of spread out. I had like CD crates for them before. I like this better because it's, again, the dark colored wood. I think this is called an ebony grain or whatever. So yeah, starts at A there, goes all the way down, and then goes over to here instead of like that. The reason for that is if I got a slot in a CD, I don't have to move from both shelves necessarily. I got my old cork slip mat. It was pretty cool. There was a different one that I wanted, but it was already gone by the time I went to go buy one. So I went with this. It was pretty cool. But I did recently also replace my slip mat. And let's go ahead and look at the table setup. So the counter of it basically is, now playing my ATL P60, which I still really like this thing. I really dig it. I think records sound just fine on it. I've never heard anybody's stereo that just blew my mind. I think some of the audiophile stuff is a little bit bullshitty, but I do want to get eventually the ATLP3, which is basically the same as this, except it comes with a much nicer toner arm. Record cleaning brushes, record cleaning solution. This is the ashtray I use to cover up the labels. It covers them up perfectly. Yeah, I'm happy with the way that this all set up, and it's lit. You can actually see, even with this lit up, with my new Castle face cork mat. The light from this here hits the record just right, so if there's any nicks or scratches or anything like that, you can kind of see them and be ready what to expect. A lot of people like to shit on this thing, but basically it does a good job playing records. And it cost me under $80. I've got doesn't have the USB cable. I do record LPs onto my computer, but I use all RCA connections. RCA and jack connections. And let's check out some of the other components of my stereo. Okay, so downstairs, I got a little shelf here for stuff if I want to put it here, especially like CD cases. because my CD player holds 25 CDs. It's not one of those cartridge type or roller type. It's called a file type. It's a Pioneer PDF 407, and I actually dig it, man. And I got it for like $38, brand new, like 23 years ago, right after I got married. It was on clearance. So you got to think this is like 1997, and it's worked fine. Since then, I've gone online to find out why it was so cheap, because I love the CD player. You can have it just play the first 5, the first 10. It usually wants to go through all the way, or you can have it play just one, or you could program it to play. You could shuffle. Great, right? The number one complaint was it was too slow in between CDs. Or if you shuffled, it took like 8 whole seconds to go from song to song. Well, I don't really do shuffle on this. I play my CDs like I do my records. I generally play the whole thing in one go. And if I stop for some reason, then I'll just pick up where I left off and finish it out. And so yeah, for like $38, 20 odd years ago, got this for dirt cheap, and it's served me well ever since. I knew Pioneer was a decent name, so here it is 23 years later. Now, I used to also have a Pioneer amplifier, and the amplifier totally went out on one channel, so I had to get a new one. So I got this one here. I think it was around like $135, and that's on Amazon, so that's pretty much just the tax and no shipping cost. This is a Insignia NS-STR 514. I'm not very, you can tell I'm not a real audiophile because I'd have that all memorized. I got this here because, again, I went on Amazon. The first thing you do is look at what are people bitching about when they have this thing. And the number one complaint on this, even though it had a lot of, it affected its score, their complaint was it didn't do 5.1, and they didn't like it for their TV. It's a straight stereo setup. So it doesn't do 5.1, 3.1, 7.1, all that shit. It just does stereo. Which means that they can, I think, make that stereo sound a little bit better. Because that's the only job it does as far as that is concerned, and it's going to do well. So even though it's a cheapie, it makes the music sound great. And I'm able to hook in my CD player. My Auxiliary 1 is my record player. Auxiliary 2 is what I'm going to talk about next. 3 is I can just plug in my phone right here if I want. Bluetooth, I can Bluetooth with my phone if I want. FM radio in stereo. AM, and back to CD. So it does its job, and it does it very well. It's not super complicated. It doesn't have a million buttons like they used to back in the day. I like that it's smooth and simple. It makes people not want to mess with it. And so my Auxiliary 2 on this, as I did a video a little while ago about tapes that I found in the garage, I have since brought those tapes into the house, organized them all. I was playing them on my boombox, but that was starting to get problems. That thing was pretty old, and it started squeaking. And every time it started squeaking, the squeak would get louder than I could get the music to go. So I needed a better solution for that. And my wife says, do they still make tape decks? And I looked it up on Amazon, and it turns out that they do. They had 3 basic ones on there, and it was kind of interesting. They had one made by Pyle, and to be honest with you, I did not want a component in my stereo with the word Pyle in it, because it makes me think of, well, you know. And the other one was a Marantz. So I was going to get ready to buy the Marantz. I looked at the worst comments, and lo and behold, they said the Marantz is just like the Ion and the Pyle. That it's the same basic shell and everything. It's just got different logos put on it. And this was like $108. So $108, a little bit of tax on that, so $118, I think. Free shipping. Not a bad tape deck. Again, I looked at the complaints on it. The big complaint on this CD or this cassette player is the noise reduction is not very good. It didn't have Dolby. Well, Dolby, I don't think has been around for at least like 10 years now or something. I generally tend to find that when I play it through my speakers, I don't really hear any hiss anyhow. But it has done a very nice job of playing my tapes. And I've actually gone in and done it through this here. Take the headphones, hook it up to my computer, and I've been digitizing those tapes that I found. So now I can listen to those tapes in the car, which is probably the original reason why I had them. Now, is this the greatest tape deck ever? No, not by a long shot. But it does its job. I don't have it hooked up this way, but I can hook it up to where you get an inline on this and hook it up to the outline here, and you can record albums on here, tape to tape. I'm not really going to do anything like that unless people start asking me, like send me blank tapes and ask me to record shit for them, which is I think illegal, so shh. But it does have, like, it'll play Chrome tapes, it's got dubbing, it's got high-speed dubbing, and record onto Chrome. You know, your basic setup on here, you got your tape counter, but it's only for B. This doesn't have a tape counter. It doesn't have continuous play. That was kind of the only bummer for me, really, was that my old double tape decks back in the eons ago, you could hit play on this one, hit play on this one, and when this one stopped, this one would start. So you could kind of listen to 2 sides of two different tapes. The buttons on this they kind of move the other buttons a little. They are a little stiff. I don't know how well, you know, that'll let up after a time, but they are quite, that's not so bad. They're loosening up a little bit. You know, and they come out like really slow. So I could open it, you know, but that's what they say, the slower the better. Reset. Hi, sweetie. I'm making a video. No problem. But with the software that I use for digitizing this stuff, it has its own noise reduction thing in the program, so I can just take out the hiss in there. So I record it through here with the hiss, and then remove the hiss in the computer. Then I just do a couple other little things to it, and maybe I'll do a video on that soon. But then I could basically take my tapes, have them on my phone, and I can play them in the car. So really, my whole setup probably cost me around $500, and that's including the slip mat, the entertainment center, and probably if you include the shelves, it would probably be around like $650 all together. So yeah, it ain't all about the bucks. You can get something that's nice to listen to. I'm not too picky, and I do have good speakers, and I blend my speakers. And so I got one big set of bookshelf speakers that really help with the bass, and then I've got a smaller indoor outdoor speaker that would normally be by itself sounds a little bit tinny, but when you blend it with that other speaker, it actually makes the music sound really good. And if I'm sitting in my special spot, which is right over there, you're in the music, you're riding the tunes, and it sounds absolutely awesome. I actually set my speakers a little bit higher than I'd like, but having them up high is not bad. It does help give music, when I listen to it, a lot of depth. Like, I'm not one of those people where you say you got to be 6 foot from that speaker and that speaker's 6 foot from that and you're 6 foot from it. I personally don't think that's the best way to listen to it. When I was a kid, I used to have mine actually set up, which I can't do in here, and I would do it that way, is you have a chair that you can relax in and then 2 speakers on either side of you, 4 or 5 feet away from you. That's the way to go. It's like mega headphones, and you really can feel where everything is in the music. But that's just my stupid opinion. Alright, so that was my stereo system. One of the things that I've been up to when I took my little break from making YouTube videos. I hope you found that interesting to see. I loved kind of showing it off, not in a braggart type of way, but just it's neat to have this stuff again. I never had a stereo system this nice, not even close. My first record player was like a Ladybug, and hopefully I've got a picture right here that shows what that was. Later on, I had like an Emerson all-in-one. It didn't have a CD player. I got it before really CDs were a thing yet, but it did have an auxiliary, so I could plug in like a CD Walkman. And so all of these components are basically the nicest components I've ever had, and I'm totally pleased with them. So that's all she wrote. It's already getting warm today, so I'm going to cut it off there. Just remember, it ain't just about the music. And I'll show some records in the next video. Bye. Come here. Come here. Because I want you to sit on my lap. You're going to go up there instead? Okay. Did you get something to eat? Maz?